There are many ways to resize shapes in Illustrator, but sometimes you want to use a tool that can resize a shape to a very specific number or percentage. For those instances, we want to use the scale tool, and you'll learn about that in this lesson. So to start, just go ahead and select the rectangle tool, click and drag out. I'm going to hold shift for perfect square, and then you can set the fill and the stroke to whatever color, and then just make it a little bit thicker so we can see it up here. I have mine set to 12 point. And to resize, we could take, for example, the selection tool and click and drag the edge there, the bounding box, and we could hold shift to maintain the original proportion. We could also, for example, use the free transform tool, but the scale tool can also work in certain instances where we want it to scale a certain percentage. So to use this, if I choose the scale tool on the tools panel and just click and drag the edge, you'll notice it's almost as if we're holding Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac while using the selection tool. And if I hold Shift, it'll maintain that original proportion. So it just resizes it, not just from one edge or one side. So if I click and drag this over here, it can also, you can resize it left and right, top and bottom, depending on where your mouse is. Experiment with the scale tool and see what kind of effects it can do. But if you have a specific number, how can we do that? See the little center here? That's the center point. So if I click and drag that over here, and then I click and drag, notice it's in relation to that center point, resizing for perspective. So if you move that back to the middle, and you hold Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac and click, and then just click again, just making sure to be in the middle, it'll bring up this menu. Another way to do that without having to worry about making sure the center point, if it's already in the middle, you can actually just make sure this is selected, whichever shape we want to resize, and then double click the scale tool in the tools panel. That'll bring up the same menu. And from here we can say uniform, let's say 200%. What that'll do is it'll scale it 200% compared to the original, so it'll double in size. And if you don't want it uniform, if you just want, say, horizontal, a different number so it's wider or skinnier, and then vertical, taller or shorter than the original, you can do that as well. Scale, stroke, and effect. So if I have that checked, let's just make this, okay, 200% is good. Right now it's 12 point for the stroke, and if I hit preview, notice that the stroke gets larger as well. So if I click, actually copy instead of OK, it'll make two of them, and you'll see the difference. So here's the original, and then here's the new one. This one has 24 points. That's because that's 200% of the 12 point. So if you want the stroke to be in relation to the size and to expand or get smaller in relation to the original scaling, then you can have that checked. There are a couple other tools under here like shear. What that does, it just shears it a little bit. You can make more of a unique look, kind of freeform, or you can hold shift if you want it to be level like that. And the third tool under this scale submenu is the reshape tool. What that is if you just select the line segment tool, just create a line out here, and then go back to the reshape tool, and you can click and drag, and you're just moving it around. Well, how is that any different from, for example, the direct selection tool? Well, you can actually click and drag the middle of it, and it makes it curved. So if I use the white arrow and tried that, it just moves it, right? I can still move the ending here, but if I just move that around, it's not going to curve it at all. So the reshape tool, make sure that's selected, and then you can move it around. And the other cool thing is if you hold down Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac, you can click and drag and duplicate out some more shapes. So you can make some custom shapes here pretty easily using the reshape tool. Hopefully you've learned a lot about these scale tools and other related tools. I will see you in the next lesson.